What is your max bench, just so we know? 335, okay.
Cool.
When did you start training?
You say 8th grade?
I mean, 335 at 18 is pretty good.
Yeah, that's very good. Nice and braced, up and out of the rack. Good, now I want you to reach for my hand with your chest. Hey, what's up? I'm Sweet Burns. We're gonna do a little bench tutorial here. So you think you can bench type deal here. I'm here with Trajan. He's 18, drove from North Carolina last night for the opportunity to do this and ended up sleeping in his car. So, you know, it kind of goes back to what I always talk about. And people that are good because they want it. You know, you have to actually go after it. It's not gonna come find you. So that's what my man did here, and we're gonna move into some bench press. Wear the wrist straps in the belt, just cause, you know. We're gonna walk through my setup for the bench press. It's not the only way to do it, but I think there's only one best way to do anything. And if you ask me, this is it for bench press. So first thing first, we're gonna operate under the assumption that you don't compete in a federation where you need to have your feet flat on the floor. Do you? Yeah. You do need to have your feet flat on the floor. All right, so then we'll cover both. So first thing first, I'll show when you're allowed to be on your toes or you're allowed to be heels up. I'll show you how that's set up, how we would use this setup for that. Okay, that's gonna benefit you the most. And it's really, there's not much difference. It's not super hard to make the transition into feet flat on the floor. Okay, so I'll show you how to do that also. So first thing, in both cases, we're gonna sit on the bench, right? This part, nothing crazy yet. Now we're gonna grab the bar even based on the knurling, okay? So it doesn't matter if it's, you know, super wide at this point, or, you know, you can do pinkies on the ring or thumbs from the smooth, whatever you prefer. Just use some compass point so that you're even on the bar. Then we're gonna have you scoot back and sit on your butt, okay? So from here, the reason we're doing this, see my feet, is so I can get my feet locked into a good position that it would be difficult to do if I was laying back on the bench like I was before. Also, doing it this way allows me to load the hips, okay? So what I'm gonna do now is brace, cue my glutes, and then slide forward. The reason is I don't wanna go into anterior pelvic tilt, okay? I don't want a real bad pelvic tilt. I wanna brace and kind of try to stay somewhat neutral in the lower part of my spine. Okay, now from here, when I'm in position, I'm gonna walk these scaps down as far as I can and get nice and high on my traps, okay? So from here, we're gonna do a cue called heels to traps. So I'm gonna drive my heels down, but I'm not only gonna do that, I'm also gonna try and drive this whole bench back. Like if I had a spotter and I was trying to drive the bench back into the spotter, okay? So watch what that looks like. It's gonna give me a lot more thoracic extension, which is basically like the mid-spine, right below where the chest is. So I'm gonna brace again, drive those heels, and you see what happened there? See how much higher up? I have a lot more extension. My traps are nice and buried from this position. I'm driving forward, okay? That's gonna keep me high on my traps. Bring that bar out, and now I'm gonna cue reaching. Okay, when I say reaching, we're talking about reaching for the bar with your chest. So it looks like this. See that? Yeah. So you're trying to reduce the distance between the bar and your chest, like you're meeting it halfway. You can't actually do that, but you want to get as close as possible. Okay, now let's say you had to do that same thing, but you had to get your feet flat the way you do. Okay, so essentially I'm just gonna fly through the beginning of the same setup. Scoot back onto my butt. Get the feet back where I want them, nice and tight. You don't want to cheat yourself and have the feet too far forward so it's easy to get the heels down. Slide forward, get the scaps where we want them, high on the traps. Now I'm gonna kind of slide those feet a little bit, but I'm gonna drive up on my traps like I did before, remember? Driving back. And I'm gonna kind of try to push my heels down and not lift my feet, but drag them. Because we don't wanna lose that tension in the hips. So drag them and drive the heels. So heels are touching, right? I still can reach. I'm still high on my traps. Up and out, reach. You get the idea. So it works both ways, all right? You wanna give it a try?
This might be.
Try and unrack it real quick. Yeah, it's fine. You want it as high as possible. You know, you don't wanna have to do a press to get it out of the rack. All right, so first thing first, scoot back and sit on your butt. Good. Where are your feet? You're moving back a little more than that, just a hair more, right? Right there, that's good. Okay, now you're gonna slide forward and keep the ball of your foot planted, braced, good. There's traps down, good. Big air, feel embrace. Drive those heels, but drive back. Okay, good, good. Up and out. Now don't descend. Reach with your chest. Try to touch my hand. Keep reaching, keep reaching. Your chest, not the hips. Reach, good, descend. Meet it halfway, press. Reach, reach, reach. I wanna see that reach. Before you descend, reach. Good, reinforce that reach, good. Good, one more, reach. Before you rack it, reach. I wanna see you reach. Look at me. There it is. Good, good. One little thing. You're kind of bringing your head up to watch the bar. We don't wanna do that. You wanna keep that head planted. You wanna be nice and high on the traps. I think that comes from, I have a theory of why so many people do that. They watch YouTube videos, they watch their heroes lifting in shirts. You know, people who lifted in gear. When most people nowadays that lift, you know, their heroes are the previous generation, like people that were in gear for the most part. And the thing about wearing a bench shirt is it's a really strong internally rotating force on the shoulder. So it protects the shoulders, right? But when we're raw, we don't have that. The only thing that's protecting that joint is the soft tissue surrounding it and having good mechanics, so the position that it's in. Right? So in order to maintain that, to prevent the scaps from protracting while we press and moving forward, right? We're gonna cue that reaching. The whole point of getting really high on the traps is to get a lot of thoracic extension, which is like your upper back right here, right? Yeah. We want that to be an extension, but we don't want a bunch of lumbar extension. So it is a little different in that way from geared benching. But what I was getting to is when you watch geared lifters bench or anyone in a sharp bench, they're usually watching the bar and they can get away with that because the scapular protraction is not an issue. You know what I mean? So you'll see them doing that, and that's actually a good way to ride the shirt down. But we can't do that in raw bench press. That's a recipe for a disaster. That's gonna be a shoulder injury. So, well, over time it will. Yeah. And there are some shoulder injuries that make it more difficult to get extension in the upper back, but ideally that's what we should shoot for. So we want good contact with the traps so we can drive back and stay there. And that's kind of the platform the traps are that we're pressing off of, right? And so by cueing reaching, we're reaching for the bar with our chest. You see what's happening there? I'm retracting and depressing the scaps. Mainly, I'm depressing them. I'm pushing them down, right? That's a big thing. Now, if the head starts to come up, the same muscles that are attached to the back of the head are attached to the scaps, and that, you know, are controlling those muscles, right? So as you start to come up, it kind of causes scapular protraction. So that's why I'm not a big fan of the head coming up on the bench press. I think driving the back of the head into the pad is the best bet, and reaching for the bar with your chest, right? So that kind of gives you something to think about, and it reinforces the reaching cue too. Okay? All right. So you want to throw a little bit of weight on there?
Yeah.
All right, what do you think, quarters or? Beautiful. All right, so take your time, I'm gonna walk you through. We'll do heels down on all these, you know, so that way you can kind of learn the way you need to learn it. So we're setting the grip up even based on the knurling. Now, if I see an issue with your grip width, I'll correct it, but that's a good starting point for everybody. Make sure either pinkies on the ring, thumbs from the smooth, use some compass point. You can do ring fingers on the ring, that's fine too. Okay, so hold on to that, scoot back, sit on your butt. Don't rush this part. This part everybody rushes and it messes things up. They just slide back and slide forward. What's the point of that? The reason we're sliding back is to get those feet in a good position so we can load the hips. Your heels are gonna come up. We want that. we're gonna correct it before you start to press. So brace first, cue your glutes, slide forward, good. Stay bracing. Now walk those scaps closer to your butt, but don't let your butt move down the pad. So go ahead. Okay, walk them closer, one at a time. One at a time, get them a little closer, a little closer, a little closer. Every little bit you can get, good. Good. Now drive the heels till you're touching, but we're also driving that way, right? So we're driving the bench back, right? So drive your feet that way so you're high on your traps. Nice and braced, up and out of the rack. Good. Now I want you to reach for my hand with your chest. Reach, good. Now descend. Good, good. Rack it. That's perfect. Take a little breather. Training this setup is as hard as training bench press is. It's as hard as doing the actual movement. Like, the first time you do this, you end up getting more hammered in your legs than you do in your pecs or shoulders or triceps.
I usually don't get out of breath from warming up.
Right, I mean, people don't understand that. Imagine trying to teach a seminar and I'm doing this, I'm trying to talk while while I'm doing this stuff. It's like, oh, it's an empty bar, why are you sweating? Well, every single muscle in your body's tight, that's what happens. Bench press is probably the most technical lift. I'll say it's absolutely the most technical lift. I mean, think about whenever in life are you gonna be doing this type of movement where you're laying on your back and pressing something off of you. It's an entirely unnatural movement. We wrap ourselves up almost into a pretzel to maximize efficiency and move the most weight possible, right? My opinion is doing it this way is the safest and most effective way you can bench press. I usually have people, when I teach this setup, I'll tell them every time they go in the gym, do 10 sets of 10 with the bar, like every time they train for the first 30 days or so, first month or so. You've done 5 or 6 sessions where you're doing setups repeated again and again and again like this, it becomes an afterthought. But the first couple times you do it, you're like, who would ever continue to bench this way? So it's kind of about getting past that initial phase. Scoop back, sit on your butt. Feet, get them back a little. And the reason we're putting those feet back, remember, is we want to have some tension in the hips, but you want to stay braced and keep your glutes tight so you don't tuck the pelvis under. Okay, good, good. Now, walk those scaps towards your butt. Good, walk them a little more, good. Now brace again real hard, reinforce that brace. Drive the heels, get your heels in a position where they're barely touching, but make them so they touch. And now drive back also, right? Drive back, up and out. Now reach. See that reach, beautiful. See that? Press, keep that head driven and reach. Reach, reach, head. Good, reach. Let me see the reach. Head driven. Now use that head to stay reaching. Press, 100 times better. One more, reach. There it is. Press, let's get you in the rack. Good.
Oh, shit.
I hear that. That's it. I always say, when you're setting up for bench press like this, if it's comfortable, you're either a gymnast or you're fucking up. It's one or the other. It's probably not supposed to be comfortable, like I said, it's a very unnatural position. It becomes more and more natural the more you do it, So we'll take a breather and let you go a little bit heavier. What do you think?
I can do a
Plate? All right, plate it is. It's really a matter of, you have to treat the bench press like a mechanical system, and we train the system of the press. We don't just train the muscles that are involved, right? So when people talk about leg drive, I think leg drive is maybe one of the most misunderstood aspects of the bench press. As though it's this thing that you can just turn on, like you hear the press command, oh, leg drive, turn it on. And I do see some people that operate that way where they actually will kick with their legs. Very rarely is this effective.